Big spring weekend on tap. Tomorrow, well, if you're watching this on Friday, tomorrow being Saturday is going to be a really big day across just the SEC. Georgia's got a spring game. Bama's got one. Auburn's got one. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, LSU, all of them on that same April 17th Saturday. And so I was just going to go around the SEC right quick, some things we're hearing, some things to look forward to this Saturday. Let's start with Georgia. First thing to look at is the forecast. Then the second thing to look at is left tackle. But I'm not going to talk about left tackle a whole lot because if this were the fall, if they opened with Clemson this week, if they were playing an actual football game Saturday, that'd be one thing. But sometimes the pass rush in a spring game is not quite what you would expect it to be in a normal game, and a lot of that is because of the design of the spring game. No one wants to see their quarterback get splattered all over the place. So, guys like Adam Anderson, they may not be pulled back in that slingshot and slung out like they normally would if it were week 1 or week 2. So maybe we don't learn a whole lot about left tackle. But wide receiver, quarterback, going to learn a whole lot about it. JT Daniels, I got to sneeze, and it's kind of should I do it? No, it went away. Okay, so JT Daniels, I think the command of the offense in general, that's something to watch. I don't know how much we can take away in that facet, but that entire wide receiver room, the way I would phrase it is, I'm excited to watch JT Daniels and then I just put a big blank. And so I've got a lot of players, but the one I'm really excited to watch in the absence of George Pickens is a guy like Arian Smith. Arian Smith, as you may look at the rest of the offense and say, oh, Kirby Smart or Todd Monken, they won't want to show a whole lot this Saturday. You can show Arian Smith all you want to. Guys who have that kind of speed, it doesn't really matter. It was like Bama with Jalen Waddle. Just show them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know they have him because you probably can't do a whole lot about it. Now, I'm not comparing the two per se. I'm saying they hope Arian Smith turns into for them what a guy like Waddle was for Alabama. Those guys are few and far between, of course, but you can show him off all you want to. And he has got burner speed, one of a very, very few guys who possess the kind of skill set that at any given point can score at any spot on the field. So I'll be very excited to watch him. And I also, you just look at that wide receiver group in general. Sometimes we come out of these spring games and all of a sudden, what if Kyrus Jackson's not a guy who needs to prove himself, but what if Kyrus Jackson has a really big day? What if Demetrius Robertson has a really big day? Those are names that you're used to. You've said those names for a while. So that wide receiver room is what I'd be focused on at Georgia. At Alabama, I want to just move beyond Bryce Young because Bryce Young's the obvious answer here. You got a new starter at quarterback there. Bill O'Brien, kind of a subplot, new offensive coordinator at Alabama. We were on the aforementioned Late Kick Show Owners Association meeting last night talking about top coordinators in college football. Is Bill O'Brien one? He has not called a play yet for Alabama, but yet Nick Saban doesn't hire tomato cans, so he is certainly sure that Bill O'Brien is the man, and if that guy's good enough to have Nick Saban's offense handed over to him, maybe he's one of the best in the country before he ever calls a play. Having said that, we get a little sneak peek, just a little bit of taste of that tomorrow, or Saturday. I keep thinking it's Friday already. Corner depth and interior defensive line depth is what I want to focus on with Alabama. They've got right now, their starting two corners are probably Jalen Armour-Davis, who's a guy who's been there a little while. There's not a whole lot of true freshmen being shoved into starting spots on Alabama's defense, which sometimes is the case. But you got Jalen Armour-Davis there. Josh Job's a familiar name. But I'm interested to see these two cats behind them. Marcus Banks is a name that, if you follow Alabama, you've heard a little bit more about. JaQuincy McKinstry, now that's a true freshman. And that's a guy, if you listen to the practice reports, I go over to BamaOnline.com and I read Charlie Potter's practice report and I listen to Nick Saban talk and get some feedback from the program. And all you ever hear is, after every single rep in practice, there's Kool-Aid, JaQuincy McKinstry. There's him going through a rep, and then there's Nick Saban in his ear. Well, they do that when they expect a guy to contribute that year, and in this case, as a true freshman. So let's see how many reps those guys get Saturday. And then as for the defensive line, I said interior, but let's just look across the entire D-line. DJ Dale is a guy who's been there a couple of years now. Tim Smith, second year, I think, in the program now. But we've talked about Justin Eboigbe. We've talked about them having LeBrian Ray back, but they've also got a guy like Byron Young, Fedarian Mathis, Jamil Burrows. They've got some really good depth. They are a program that can go a few guys deep, a few lines deep on the defensive front now, which hasn't always been the case the last couple of years for them. And so pay attention to that with Alabama. How about LSU? This one's easy. Don't overthink the room. It's quarterback by 10 miles. And I'm looking at two specifically, all due respect to TJ Finley. Garrett Nussmeier is a guy who has a promising future, but you know it's Miles Brennan, and then you know it's Max Johnson. And I don't have a lean one way or the other here. I'm just saying you can talk all you want to. You can go through preview magazine season all you want to. I don't care if this is a spring game or not. Anytime you get to put your eyeballs on like game action, when you have a quarterback situation like this, it's really important because it is competition. And so what I get to see and what you get to see Saturday with LSU is you get to look and you get to see, is there one guy who looks like he just has a lot firmer grasp of the offense? Is there one guy who looks like he has a lot better command of everything? A lot more of a field general, if you will. And here's the real telltale sign that I don't know if we'll see, but just pay attention for it. Is there one guy that the rest of that offense tends to gravitate towards? You've seen this before, time and time again, when you got a couple of quarterbacks and all you've read are practice reports that let you know, oh, it's neck and neck. This guy was good this week. That guy was good last week. It's 1A and 1B. But then when you see him take the field, all of a sudden you say, why does the offensive line just seem like it's so much more in sync when guy A is in there? Why does the wide receiver corps just seem to go to battle so much harder for guy A? They're letting you know who leads in that quarterback battle. So that's interesting, and that's something to watch for LSU. It's not going to be decided by any stretch Saturday, but let's keep an eye on that. Arkansas last year defensively was really, really fascinating story because they brought in Barry Odom, and they played kind of an umbrella, for lack of a better term, approach defensively out of necessity, and it worked for them. They were patient. They knew they weren't going to hold you under 300 yards, but they could hold you under 30 points if they just, maintained what the entire game plan was the whole time. But all the while, you want to eventually up the talent level so that you can be more multiple and so that you can do more things. And so there are some names to watch for Arkansas, like Terrion Carter is, I think, a sophomore defensive tackle. Zach Williams, likewise, sophomore defensive end. They got some injuries coming into this Saturday, too. So these are guys who are probably going to get a lot of game action. Jaden Johnson's an early enrollee at safety, is another name to watch. These are just some guys to pay attention to for Arkansas. But overall, independent of which name's on the back of what jersey, just look at the talent level and just see if you're saying to yourself, Arkansas just they look a little bit bigger, faster, stronger than they did last year. That should be your observation. And last but not least, the Auburn Tigers. This one's kind of like LSU. It's not hard. Don't overthink the room. You can go lines of scrimmage, but really I just go Bo Nix, and I ask, how far have they come? Has the deprogramming reached the point where you can start to move forward and you can start to program? And look at him specifically in the pocket, because last year and really throughout his entire career, Bo Nix has not been a guy who's exactly been a surgeon from inside the pocket and a surgeon in terms of having really good pocket awareness. It's, in fairness to him, it's not anything he's been developed to do at Auburn to this point, but now you got a new staff in there, and they claim to want to do that. And, if my eyeballs have served me correctly, I think the raw skill set is there for that. But yet you don't know from the neck up, how much do you have to change? Is it able to be changed? I think in this case, you'd rather just get Nix in there as a true freshman than have to deprogram all the junk that's up there from the past couple of years. So that's something to watch for Auburn. Big spring Saturday. Mississippi State's on the field. Vanderbilt's on the field. So really looking forward to that all across the SEC.